How you doing, folks? Tim Attitude2 here, OutstandingPoker.com. This is part 2 of my new series on beating 200 NL and moving up from the micro stakes. I'm continuing on from last week and pretty much right where I left off. So obviously watch the last week's video first to get a read on my opponents, and I'm going to dive right in without further ado. I believe we played the top. I discussed the top right hand last video, and I believe the top left hand as well. So I'm going to dive into the bottom right hand here, where I opened King 10 offsuit on the cutoff, which is pretty standard. And I don't have much of a read on 4973 at this point. I only have 16 hands on him, but given that he's sitting on like a 60% stack, and he's now min 3-betting me, I'm going to assume that he's just a super weak player. And I pretty much have odds to call in position a min raise, $4 more into a pot of 17 with any two cards here. So I'm definitely going to call. I imagine he's very strong, so I'm pretty much calling just to hope to hit two pair or better type hand. And oftentimes, when weaker players do this, you really always have odds, because if they have a hand like pocket aces, they almost always will check the flop or do something stupid to let you see a free turn card. The only thing to be concerned about is don't get caught up trying to bluff them when they check and take some crazy line, because they always do that. So just take your free cards if you don't hit anything, and just be disciplined and fold if you don't hit anything. Now, I remember playing this hand. I was too focused on the top right and top left hands that I think I called instinctively here without realizing that he min 3-bet me, and I believe I played the hand as if I was the one that 3-bet him. So when he bets half pot here, it's just an auto fold. I mean, that's a definite inducing type bluff to try to get you to call. Like I just fold here all day long. Now, the way I played it, and the reason I raised here, is that I was under the assumption that I 3-bet him, and then he like donked into me on the flop. And that's typically very weak. When a player donks into you on a dry ace high flop, I'll oftentimes raise them with any two cards, because it just doesn't make sense. If they had a strong hand, they would want to check raise me or slow play or something like that. So I just completely misplayed the hand, because I didn't realize that he had 3-bet me pre-flop and he was the aggressor. So I played it as if I was the aggressor that 3-bet him pre-flop. So just disregard how I played it. I don't like the raise at all. He's very strong, I think, when he half pot bets it there. So I don't really want to talk about it too much, other than I messed up the hand and put in 19 big blinds unnecessarily on a dumb bluff if I was playing properly. But that happens, and that'll happen when you play too many tables or just aren't focused enough. So anyway, there's not much more to say. So he called, and definitely want to shut down here. Now that he calls, which I believe I do. Bottom left hand, this is an example of, I raise the button 3x. It's a pretty standard raise against a fairly tight aggressive guy on the button. I think I can get away with 6-4 suited. You can also fold it if you want, but when you don't hit anything on the flop here, I wouldn't continuation bet. This just smacks his calling range very hard. So I don't mind just giving up when you have no sort of no sort of draw, no hope to improve if he calls the turn when it's this heavy a flop, this wet a flop. So there's nothing wrong with just giving up in these sorts of situations when you get called in the big blind. If I had a gut shot, I don't mind continuation betting, and then given that you might have some equity. But when you have absolutely no equity except for like a backdoor flush draw, you can, and if the flop is very heavy and wet, i.e. it's high cards and there's a lot of draws, I don't mind just giving up there. So here we get a raise by a multi-tabling regular in mid position, and I 3-bet him with ace-6 suited. I think that's a good hand to add to my bluffing range. I'm not going to be bluffing too much against a mid position open, but against a regular who